Hi, this is Time Spot on the Beat with Farah Azhari, and today joining me in the studio is Sayf Ismail. So he's the former FAM head of marketing, co-founder of Sokoloka football app. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yep.
And adjunct professor at University Malaya. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me today. Yes,
Right.
selamat berpuasa. We actually have a pretty interesting topic today.
Yes.
But I'm going to set you a challenge. I need you to get this done in 30 minutes.
Okay.
So the
Right.
topic we're looking at today is if Malaysian football resets tomorrow, what actually survives? Okay. So, there's a lot of finger pointing, blaming, this and that. I'm pretty sure you're in the loop with all of that. So now we just want to move forward. We don't want to do any of that. We just want to look at the bigger scope of things. Okay, so should I just jump straight into the questions?
Sure. Right.
Okay, cool. First question. So tomorrow, Malaysian football is wiped clean. No clubs, no leagues, no FAM. What must exist again for football to function?
Okay. So this is through my experience. For any nation to have a strong footballing outcome or strong national team, there's three elements that you need to have. One is the passion, for the sport. Secondly is organization of the sport. And thirdly, what I call volume. Right. So you need all three. And if you look at all the top countries in the world, they have all of these three elements.
Okay.
Right. Malaysia, we have passion. There's a lot of passion. Not just Malaysia and Southeast Asia as in general.
Yeah.
Right. So it's undisputed, or now maybe disputed, number one sport. Right. But it is a heritage sport. We started very early.
Yeah.
And FM is coming to 100 years now, right?
Yes.
So we had a head start. So there's a lot of passion for the sport. What we don't have is organization, really good organization of the sport.
Okay.
And what we also don't have is volume in terms of participation.
Okay.
Right. So if we were to set everything clear and rebuild, we need to get these other two right. Right. So we need to have better organization of the sport from the bottom all the way to the top. And that ties up with volume participation where everybody has an opportunity to participate.
Okay.
Right. So it's not just to a certain demographic or a certain geography, right? Because passion is high, everybody wants to play, and therefore the ability to participate must be there in volume, right? So that's what we need to look at if we started from zero, and we can take a leaf out of how other countries have done it. I always look to the example of Japan, right?
Okay.
Many people, if you read up on Japan, what they did in 1992, and they started more or less when we did, but for them, football was not their number one sport. They played a lot of baseball.
Yeah,
right.
Baseball.
So in 1992, what they did was they had a 100-year plan, right? And in the 100-year plan, there were a lot of deliverables. One is to win the World Cup in 100 years.
Okay.
And secondly is to have 100 professional clubs within that period, right? So there's a clear goal, right? Now, winning the World Cup is not something that, you can be at a level but never win, right? But having 100 professional clubs is something that is achievable, right? It's fully in your control. So we need a roadmap similar to what Japan did as well, right? That integrates these three elements, right? That looks into maintaining the passion or, keeping the passion strong. That looks into organization of the sport, right? Bottom up, and looks at getting people to participate, right? And that roadmap has to be quite long in nature, because we also have to understand that football development takes time.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? It takes generations, right? Going after a quick win rarely works, right? In this sport, so we need to look at maybe I would say a minimum 20 to 30 year time frame, a roadmap, right? To say that Malaysia, if we are to become a giant in Asia or a significant power in Asia, right? We need to have a 20-year or 30-year roadmap. That's about 3 generations of players, or maybe 4 generations of players, because the player life cycle is shorter now. Huh?
Yes.
They peak earlier now and they retire earlier, actually, right? So we need to look at that, and we need to look at the suitability of our our environment, right? So we live in a tropical country. I always say that playing time is a bit limited, right? You can only play between certain hours, right? It's not like we always look towards the UK or Japan. You can play anytime, basically, right? It's just cold, but in the heat you cannot.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So we need to look at that, and we need to look at our geography as well, right? So the planning around, especially the organization of the sport, has to fit our environment.
Okay.
Right. So this is, I think, where we need to start with a roadmap and looking at all these three criteria that I call, right?
Okay, but having said that, we've had plenty of roadmaps. We've seen plenty of roadmaps, but yet we're never on path. So if we wanted to do that, what is the first most important thing, like a starting point of it?
Okay, so when you say we've had roadmaps, what roadmap have we had? I want to challenge you here.
Well, the ones that, FM...
So we had the F30, okay? The most recent one. That was
That's the most recent one, yeah.
That's a 12-year plan.
Yep.
Right. That supposedly was going to take us from where we were in 2019 when it was launched, in a 12-year period to become, to qualify for the World Cup is unrealistic.
Okay.
Right? So, yes, we need a roadmap, but we need to write it in a realistic manner.
Okay.
Right. 12 years to moving from 100, I think ranked 174 to becoming World Cup nation is ambitious, bordering crazy.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay. So we need people who can actually write a strategic roadmap, right? And have more detail in the roadmap. F30 said that in the first phase between, I think, the first 4 years, 2019 to 2022, 23, right? They were going to do a whole governance review. Didn't happen. We know this, right? From the current outcome. So, right, putting something on paper doesn't mean that you have to really look at it and make sure that it is achievable. That's why I said when Japan did this, it's 100 professional clubs, totally within their control. Right, winning the World Cup isn't in your control because there are external factors. Right, we know that some of the biggest nations sometimes don't qualify for the World Cup.
Yep.
Right, but you have to have things that are under control. So we have to start with a real roadmap written by people who know how to write roadmaps and have done a complete study of what the environment is and how we move forward. Right, so that is what is different, and it has to be longer. Right, before F30, I don't think there was a clear roadmap. Okay. Right.
Yep.
And a long-term roadmap means that you transition over different leaderships. Right. So if our goal, let's just to borrow the Japanese model, right?
Yeah.
If we say we want not 100, we want 60 professional clubs in Malaysia, and we put that as the target now, it doesn't matter if who the president today is, who the president in the next term is, or the next term. That is a goal that we already have set, and everybody will aspire to. Right. So we've never set long-term goals.
Okay.
Right. Long-term, realistic goals that are actually achievable, that are in our power. Right. So I think that's where we need to start first. Right. So just sorry to challenge you on the roadmap. Like I said, I've seen many roadmaps. I'm in the consulting line as well. I've seen a lot of...
It's okay. I didn't want to mention it. I was waiting for you to mention it. So and you did. So okay. But okay, can we move on to the next question? Sure. What doesn't survive and what disappears immediately and maybe should?
Okay. What doesn't survive and what should disappear? Okay, so we have a bit immediately. Okay. Yeah. What should not survive is our feudal mentality.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
In the early days, right, we needed patronage. Right.
Yes.
And so if you look at our history, and not just football, but all other sports as well, we needed high-profile figures to lead. Right. But football in Malaysia is established.
Okay.
Right. So not only, so it's not the patronage which is the issue, it's the culture of patronage which is the issue.
All right.
Right.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with having a great patron as long as the culture is not one of a mentality of whatever the patron says or is correct. Right. No one person is perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to have this what I call a challenging culture.
Okay.
right? And unfortunately, we don't have that in Malaysian sports in general, and we don't have that in a bit in Malaysian society as well. We're still maturing, right? I think on maybe I'm just jumping a bit on the political side now. Is a bit more,
It's okay. You can go any direction you want to go.
There's a bit more, opposition voices are coming out, right?
Yep.
And that also has to happen in the football, in football and in sports as well, right? This culture of, saya yang menurut perintah,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Whatever you do is right. We have to make sure that does not survive, right? So that's why, again, a long-term roadmap is required, and we can break this culture, then I think we can move forward, right?
Okay, so that's the immediate change you would make lah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is, what's the one belief Malaysian football keeps repeating, but evidence says otherwise? Something that we keep lying to ourselves about.
Okay. So I wrote a column, I think a couple of years back.
Okay.
And I said that one thing that we have in Malaysia in our mindset is that we equate national development with football development.
Okay. All right.
Right. So I'll give you an example. Right. When we go and play against Myanmar, our mindset takkanlah we cannot beat Myanmar.
Yeah.
It's why? Because we have KLCC, we have
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And we think they don't have this, and we think we're better than them. But this is a fallacy. Right. Football development is not in line with national development. Right. There are many teams where the national GDP is very low, where they are poor countries who are in the top 20, top 25 in the world, right? Our mindset is that we should be beating Myanmar, we should be beating Cambodia, we should be beating, because we think that we have the better stadiums, we have better infrastructure, we pay the better salaries, right? So this is one fallacy that we really need to understand. No, it doesn't work this way.
Okay.
Right. And Malaysians as a whole are guilty of this, in my view, right? We automatically think that we are better, right?
Okay.
Football doesn't work like that, right?
So what else aside from that? Is there anything else?
No, I think that is actually the biggest hurdle, this sense of entitlement that we have.
Okay.
Right.
But aside from the sense of entitlement, you don't feel like the cost of football on all aspects at the moment, like administrative or the way that we run our league and such, and the national setup, any parts of it is completely delusional.
Oh yes, no. Okay, there's another issue now. Okay, so we're talking about the number of clubs.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So we know that if a country is going to move forward, you have to have a lot of professional clubs.
Yep.
The problem that we have in Malaysia is that we have a maximum number of 20 maybe.
Okay.
Why is that? Because we don't take our geography into account, right? So the best example I give you is the state system, right? The state system kills community-based football.
Okay.
Right. So if you have, I'm from Selangor, so I take Selangor as an example.
Okay.
Selangor.
Go for it. Don't anyone take offense.
I don't know. No. This is just so Selangor population. I think is about 3 million something.
Okay.
Right. I'm just guessing. I don't know the exact number, but it's about 3, probably about 3, maybe more now. Right.
Okay.
Take out KL, right? Yeah. So if there's 3 million, let's say there's 1 million kids below the age of 18, for example, just for a rough number. These 1 million kids, right? Maybe half of them are male, right? So 500,000 kids, right? Who are aspiring to play football, for example, because it's the number one sport.
Yeah.
And they are fighting for 30 slots in the Selangor team. Right? Minus 15 import slots. So there's no opportunity for this amount of people to get into these slots. So what needs to happen is that the state has to, I wouldn't say dissolve, but it has to dissolve into community-based teams.
Okay.
So a state like Selangor, right, should have maybe 20 teams, right? So they'll have I'm from Kajang, so they have Kajang FC, you'll have a Semenyih FC, you'll have Ceras FC, you'll have PJ FC, which we already have now, right?
Yeah.
Shah Alam and whatnot. The problem is that these clubs cannot. The moment they get slightly bigger, they will lose to Selangor.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
So as long as we are in this state system, right, we will not have enough clubs. And I saw this when I was in FAM, when we had teams like PKNS and Selangor.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And when we were managing the FA Cup, for example, or the Malaysian Cup, please don't draw them together. Because if they're drawn together, especially in a final, the final will die.
Exactly.
Right. And I think we had an instance where I think Felda was Vipahang in one Malaysia Cup final, right?
Yeah.
Total dud. Right.
Okay.
So it cannibalizes its own market, right? So the way forward, the uncomfortable way forward, is for states to dissolve. Right. So maybe and a good example would be in Sarawak, for example. We used to have Sarawak, now we have Kuching, which is Sarawak lah sebenarnya.
Yeah.
But they rename it, which is good. It's unintentional, but it's good. So then you can have a Miri FC.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And you can have, others in that. So my loyalty is, of course, to my state, but you give room for others to bloom. Right. And when, coming back to Selangor, for example, if you have 20 clubs here, community or city-based clubs or regional-based clubs, right? Then there is more opportunity for the kids in that community to be selected for that team.
Okay.
Right. So from having one team with 30 slots, you have 20 times 30 slots now. Right. So you're talking about 600 opportunities for players to come in.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And that's you're just talking at the senior level. If you go down further and further, there'll be more and more level because the pyramid has to be wide. Right. So until we actually get over ourselves in terms of the state FA system, I feel that it's going to be very, very hard for Malaysian football to progress with just 14 state teams playing against each other. Okay. Right. All right. So it is a bitter pill to swallow, and it takes a lot of courage for somebody to say that, we have to stop playing state, or maybe I think we had this discussion once. Maybe the state team is just a Piala Malaysia. That's it. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So the Piala Malaysia, like dulu we played after season kan?
Yes.
Right, we play after season. Okay. All the best teams in Selangor play for, get the 20 teams in Selangor, create a Selangor team, and then play in the Malaysia Cup. But the league has to have more teams. Okay. Right. Yeah. So until we realize this, right, and until we are brave enough to kind of pivot or change, I really feel that there's not enough capacity. There's not enough volume, right, to produce the quality of players that we want, right.
Because as you're speaking about this, my mind just immediately goes to money, because that's always the factor behind everything that, this can't happen, that can't happen, because we don't have injection of funds, we don't have sponsors and such. So, okay, Selangor, I think it wouldn't be so difficult for them to find, right? You're talking about the districts and everything, because it's like well-known, established names like your PJs and your Kajangs and all that. But I'm talking about like the rural areas in places like Sarawak, Sabah, even the Negeri Sembilan and all that.
So again, this is where organization comes in, right? So if you look at more mature football ecosystems, right, you have your first year. Your first year is always national level. Okay. Which means you travel everywhere. Yeah. Right. Usually your second tier is also national, right? Beyond that, it becomes regional. Right. Because the biggest cost in football of running a team is not salaries, is actually on par now, is salaries and logistics. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You have to take a team of 30 people, drive them to another state, if you can drive. If not, you have to fly. Yes. Stay a night before, play a game, stay a night again, and come back. So the actual logistics cost is very high. Right. So we can take that logistics cost out. And we said, you can take a bus, go play the game, and come back the same day. Then you save a lot of money. Right. So the organization must be such at the lower levels, right, where of course sponsorship is not as much, or support is not as much. The community can support this. Okay. Right. That's number one. Secondly, in Malaysia, we are overpaying for salaries. Okay. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yes. I just did a quick check on salaries in Japan. Okay. Right. So the average J3 player only earns about 40,000 US. Right. a year.
Okay.
Right. Not that much.
Yeah.
Okay. It's about 40 times 4 is about 160. So we're talking about 10 something thousand. The same money that we're paying our people
Yep.
now, or maybe less. That's
I think it's less.
And the average is higher because you have star players. If you take the normal, the median, right, it's actually lower.
Yeah.
Right. So we are overpaying for the talent that we have, right?
Yes.
Our best player here, not to this
Name
is
any
just
names.
pure. I'm not naming names. I'm just saying our best player here, right, would probably not get a game in J2.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Be on the bench in the J2 team.
Yes.
You don't automatically walk into the first 11.
Yeah.
Right. But they are being paid more than the J2 player.
Yeah.
Right. So we're overpaying for talent, and there are multiple reasons for this. Right. But actually, if there is volume, like I mentioned just now, then salary should go down because you have supply. Right. So if there are, there's so many players who want to play and the level of talent is high, therefore you shouldn't, if okay, I'm going to pay you this much, if you don't want to take another guy.
If after this you got footballers coming after you, it's not my fault.
No. But I tell you what, so when I talk to some footballers, right, they would rather earn less and have a stable job.
Yeah. No,
right?
because
than earn what they are promised and not get paid.
Correct. Because I looked at into Southeast Asian leagues.
Yes.
And we are paying a lot.
Yes.
Because we're like right up there. If I'm not mistaken, we're number 2. I can't remember who the first one is. But even like powerful leagues like Thailand and Vietnam is like under us.
Yep.
With lower salaries.
So for footballing talent, you pay a certain amount.
Yeah.
Right. And then it comes the star power. If that person has some pull and some marketability and whatnot, you can pay a bit more.
Exactly.
Right. But like I said, a lot of players in Malaysia, and I'm involved in some consulting with clubs as well, right? Right. The problem in Malaysia is that we have 1 year contracts.
Yes.
Or maximum 2 years. This is why in Malaysian football you don't see any transfer fees. Right. You just see people moving. It's like almost like a draft now.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's no long-term contracts. Right. So if you ask me, not a football player, as a normal human, a working human, would I prefer a high salary on a 1 year contract or a lower salary on a 3 year contract? I go for the 3 years. I want security. Right. Especially in a sport where I could get injured, where it's risk, right? So I think that shift hasn't happened yet, right? And I think for that to happen, the volume or the supply of players, of quality players, has to go up, right? So that is the challenge that we face, right, here in Malaysia.
Okay. Just out of pure curiosity, this is like steering slightly away from this topic,
Okay.
but why is it that Malaysian clubs rarely capitalize or try to take advantage of the concept of transfer fees?
Like I said, they are unwilling to sign longer term contracts.
Okay. Yeah.
So for you to pay a transfer fee or to receive a transfer fee, you have to take a risk on the player first.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So if you're a very good player, I'm going to tie you down for 3 years. Right. Or 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. So if I develop you, right, and somebody wants you, then they have to pay the club.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And I get all that concept, but it's because...
So they're not willing to take a risk.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And probably because the cycle of leadership is very short. Right.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
So if we have friends who are CEOs and I don't know how long I'm going to be here. Right. And then you also have this recurring problem of salaries not being paid. Right. The ones that we hear about, okay. The ones we don't hear about, we don't know. Right.
Exactly.
There's more.
Yes.
Right. And so the market or the economic model of the league has not come to a point where it has hit viability. Right. So most clubs are funded through the government.
Yep.
Malaysian football is funded through the government.
Yes.
Probably 70%, 80%. Right. Even the clubs who are named clubs.
Yeah.
But are supported by the states. Right.
Yeah.
Money comes from the state coffers. Right. could be direct from the state or from some government link, state link company, right?
Yeah.
Same with the national level, either direct from the government or from GLC, right? So this reliance on government money, we have to move away, right? And what we have failed to do is actually integrate community back into the football, right? When I was, giving away my age, when I was younger, the stadiums were full, right?
Okay, all right.
Right, and you as a Selangor boy and Selangor fan, we would go travel from Kajang naik motor dengan abang-abang ni pergi to watch the football, right?
Yeah.
Now it doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so
exactly.
we've lost that, right? And because it all starts in the stadium. Okay, so what you want is not actually high numbers. You want good atmosphere.
Yeah. Yes.
Right, and we went down this road of building mega stadiums, right, where sometimes you can get decent numbers. If you have a smaller stadium that can fit 7,000-8,000 people, and you can fill it, the atmosphere is really good.
Yeah.
So people want to go.
Yep.
Once people want to go, more people want to go, people want to watch. You it hypes on.
Yeah.
Right. So it starts there, and then another mistake that we haven't done well is work on football as an industry / as an entertainment.
Okay.
Right. So we see it as a sport. Right. But football has evolved into entertainment.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. The money for football is through entertainment, right?
Yes.
So it's from TV rights,
Yep.
basically, which powers the whole football ecosystem, right? So it has to be entertaining. Now, for you, are all games entertaining or not?
No.
No, right?
Not all.
But what makes the league entertaining? Or football entertaining?
Are you talking about the Super League or in general?
Whatever league, what makes it entertaining?
Usually the competition, but if you already know who's going to win, it's not.
Okay. So the first thing you need about a league is you need unpredictability of outcome.
Yeah.
Right. That's why the Premier League is so is very, very is the best league in the world now. Because not only the quality is high, but on any given day, any team can win. Right. Wolves just won they drew against what was it? Arsenal the other day, right? Lowest, so it's unpredictable. Right. So you need that. But secondly, you need a hype machine around it.
Okay.
Right. You need the talk shows, you need the fan clubs, you need a culture around football, right? Which we have failed to develop actually, right? Our view of going to football, pergi stadium tengok bola balik. Right. In the UK, there's a whole culture around this. Going to watch a football match is not going to watch; it's a day out, right? Their culture is centered around, the chanting, the banter, and a bit of alcohol. If you think about it, right?
Yes.
We need to find what works for us.
Okay.
Right, and we haven't done that. The hype machine is not strong, right? And this is you see that sometimes high-profile games don't really, are letdowns. Right, but the hype is still there.
Yeah.
Right, so that is where the commercial challenge is, and what we have not been able to crack.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so let's get back on track. I'm sorry, that was longer, that topic. Okay, so if you were building youth football without league pressure or politics, what would it actually look like in year one?
Youth football?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm giving you 2 minutes on this one.
You need to play as many games as possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So what you need to do is allow participation at school level. Every school yang ada Padang run tournament.
Okay.
Simple as that. Get people playing. Right. Get people playing. If every kid who wants to play football can play football in an organized manner, right, things will start moving. It will organically move. So wherever there's a field, somebody go organize some football. Right. Just start from there.
So
right.
If you made that change, I would say that after 365 days, I would see a lot of kids on the field.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. See an empty field, organize a game.
Okay.
Right.
So next one is, what's one thing fans never understand about dressing rooms here? And what does the coaches get wrong about the players? And what does media get wrong about them both?
Players.
Dressing room, players.
I
Coaches for the players and then fans for the dressing room. And media for both.
I've not been in many dressing rooms because I'm on the administration side, but I've had the privilege to sit inside.
Yeah,
certain,
but also players, right?
Yeah.
And
So players are humans.
yeah.
Right. Players are humans. And I think the misconception that people have about players is that they are, okay, how do I say this? You kind of assume their persona through what you know.
Yes.
Right. But players are humans as normal. They come with their flaws. Right. And again, I'm not trying to, how do I say this delicately?
In short, you're trying to say that they don't walk on water lah.
They don't walk on water, number one. But again, they are simple people.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Now, football players, if you look at the general population of football players, right? They come from a certain demographic.
Okay.
Right. From a certain hardship, and usually from a bit of hardship, and usually from rural areas.
Yep.
Right. That's why some players are good at interviews and most of them are not. Right. And when we look at players, we expect them to, let's say, walk on water, be very affluent, be able to speak, be able to manage their careers well. No, they are just faulted
Humble,
human beings
down to earth
who are trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Right. And just focus on what they do. Right. So I think sometimes we expect too much out of them.
Okay.
All right.
So coaches with players?
Coaches with players, it depends on. So coaches who are ex-players, they understand.
Yep.
Right. I think it's the other way around. Players who work with coaches. Now, this is what I've seen. Players who work with coaches who are not players, who are not ex-players. This is where the problem is. Right. In Malaysia, I see that if you do not come from a playing background, you do not get much respect.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
That's true.
And that shouldn't be the case, because you don't need to be a good player to be a good coach. That's number one. Secondly, when you go into the management side, just to expand this a bit, right? People think that for you to be in administration, you have to be a good player. No. Right. Administration is a job.
Yeah.
It's a management job.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody has been their whole life on the field, then coming into an office environment,
it's a bit awkward.
It's right. So now people are talking about we need ex-players to be in the management and whatnot. Right.
Yep.
We need ex-players to be coaches, to be technical people.
Yeah.
Right. But if you haven't worked the desk job, right, it's going to be very hard for you to transition into this, right? And that's another misconception that people don't understand, right? So from administrator to coach to players, there are certain gaps that people don't understand, right?
Okay, so what is media getting wrong about both of this?
I think the media...
Careful,
I'm very careful. I'm being very mindful, yeah. I think the media needs to embed itself a bit more. Okay. Right. With all this, if you have these constituencies, right, the players, coaches, and administration, and really understand the challenges of each, right. I don't say that they get wrong, but I don't think they go deep enough, right. All the conversations that I have with people are all very surface level, right. So I could talk about the commercial side of football. We could do an hour podcast, and I can go deeper into it. Yeah. Right. But again, the media, you need to sell
Wait, I'm writing all this down.
Right. You need to sell headlines, right?
Yeah.
So, you will summarize.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel that there's not enough depth right. But I think the public wants depth now. Given what's happened in the past, 6 months, right? What we've seen is that people actually go into details, start reading the documents when it matters.
Yes.
Right. So I think what media can do is really educate the public on the actual details and nuances. Right. So like you said just now, roadmap, for example, right? We can go down. We should dissect this F30 and say, no, it's a really bad plan, in my view. Right. I'm a consultant. I write roadmaps for corporate roadmaps. I've wrote policy for the government as well, right? I can tell you that it's not detailed enough, Right. So these are the things that I think we need to report a bit more so that the general public understand.
Okay.
Right. And that for Malaysian football to move forward, right, there needs to be this bravery.
Okay.
Right? This bravery in saying that, you know what, we need a long-term plan and we need to keep to it and we need professionals, right, to come in and implement this. Right? If we go back to our, feudal ways, right? I'm not saying it cannot succeed, but I think it's a long journey, right? Yeah. And Malaysia is unique because the reality is that we have certain social constructs where you cannot step out of your lane too much,
Yeah.
right? Not for fear of legal recourse, but just of social.
I think it's more of a cultural thing mixed with the religion and
right. So if you cannot be honest with yourself and you cannot disagree and challenge each other, right? How are you going to move forward, right? So I think until we grasp this, right, we're going to be in a bit of what I call a roundabout.
Yeah.
Right. And we could be here, and I said this in the previous, we could be here 5 years' time talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Right. So this is the unfortunate reality.
Yeah.
Right. And the more unfortunate reality is that as we stagnate in our little roundabout, other countries are moving forward.
Yes.
Right. So that is the situation of Malaysian football, I guess.
Okay, so one last question for you before we wrap up. Even after a reset, what problem do you think would still fail to fix?
Okay, so two big problems that I mentioned just now. One is the culture, right? So I was just looking back at the exco when I was there. Everybody was a datuk, right? Everybody in the exco is a datuk. Everybody not in the exco is a normal guy like me.
Okay.
So you cannot tell a datuk.
Are you hinting to us that you're going to contest in the next one?
No. I'm not hinting. I don't think. Let's not talk about that. But I think we need to break the social divide. Right? You don't need datuk. You need just good people who are honest, who want to do the work, who want to press on these three things I said: passion, organization, and volume. Right? Make sure this happens. Right? You don't need a datukship, you don't need a Tan Sri, you don't need a whatever, right? You just need people to do the work because the sport is at a point where it doesn't need it anymore. Right? If you are, persatuan sukan yang very new with zero, exposure, with zero following, yes, then you need a strong patron to bring it up, right? But now that's not necessary. You need a good roadmap and good people to implement, right? I'm not saying it can be a datuk, but I think it doesn't have to be a datuk. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because this datuk culture is again a bit of like, if datuk says this, I cannot say no. Right.
Yeah.
And we've seen this. We know this. I don't have to tell you, right?
The part turut thing.
Saya menurut perintah.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a problem. That's number one. Secondly, like I said, the state system, as long as we are still in this, and this is controversial, right? A lot of people will probably, if they watch this, say, apa ni nak mansuhkan the whole legacy of Malaysian football, right?
Okay.
But the reality is that if we only have 14 teams, right? And even now, if you look 14, we have JDT 2, Selangor 2, right? Then we'll go what? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down.
Yeah.
Sense.
Yep.
Right. So we need to really think about this from a strategic point of view and say that we need to change the system, right? If it doesn't change, how can 14 plus another, tentera and police plus a few other teams produce enough quality to take us to become a World Cup team? Okay. Very unlikely.
So the one last thing sometimes I tell my guests to do is to make me an elevator pitch.
Okay.
Of what you think as to sum up this topic, right? Yeah. Just one for someone to hear and just immediately be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're with you, Sayf, we're with you. Okay.
So I feel that for Malaysian football to move forward, we need to set a plan, maybe I would say a 30-year plan, right? Where in those 30 years, we aspire to have at least 60 professional clubs, in Malaysia, right? And these 60 clubs have their own academies, right? So you have 60, maybe 3 leagues, 20, right? They have academies, so they have another playing with each other, right? And then you have regional-based football. That's what we need to aspire to. Doesn't matter how good the national team is, we need to build this first.
Okay.
Right. So that is my pitch to Malaysian football. Right. And if we can do this, I'm pretty sure within 30 years, right, we can be a significant footballing nation, because like I said, we are blessed with a lot of passion. Right. So I think we need to kind of capitalize on that.
Okay, hashtag Sayf for Press. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining me in the studio today. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, if I don't stop him talking now, he'll just keep going on for an hour or so, right? Yeah.
We can talk.
No, I got to end it here. Got time limit.
Okay. So it's been a pleasure though. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. If you enjoy episodes like this, and you can watch more with my colleagues as well on Spotify, Audio Plus apps, and also the Apple Podcasts. See you later. Bye. Say bye.